We're back with the 48. It's been a couple weeks, but we're back here. We're gonna try to get the engine loosened up a little bit today. But I also realized I really hadn't given a history of this exact truck. So this truck was purchased by my father in 1977. This same year he bought this property with the barn, and it has pretty much been garaged in this exact spot, or I think it was over a little bit here, for the past 47 years. So it's been in dry storage, and we drove this truck. We used it up until probably about 1994 or 1995. I can't remember exactly, but I actually learned to drive on this truck, and it used to be fairly reliable. It used to start up all the time, and I think it was an electrical issue why it stopped running, but we had some things come up and we never got back to it. So here we are now in 2024, approximately 29-30 years later, and we're gonna see what we can do. So today, like I said, I'm gonna try to get the engine freed up a little bit. I've got some of that Marvel mystery oil that people have suggested that I use to try to free the engine up. And I suspect at least one, if not two, of the intake valves and one or two of the exhaust valves have been open for the past 29 years, allowing humidity and moisture in and out, although we are in a dry environment. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to see if we can get the spark plugs out, put a little squirt of this in each cylinder and let it set for a while, see if we can get it freed up a little bit more. I think my next step's going to have to be getting a new ignition coil, probably some new battery cables, and probably new spark plug wires, a new rotor, and possibly some more electrical things, because we were not getting a spark before, and I don't think getting it freed up, and hopefully this will help the engine turn a little bit quicker, because it was not turning nearly as quick as I remember the starter turning it prior to it sitting here for so long. But that's a little bit of history of this truck. It was fun to drive. I love driving this truck. I remember riding in this truck when I was in kindergarten, driving around with my father. And then, like I say, eventually I learned how to drive on this. And but now it's been sitting here. So let's see what we can do. Okay, this is the 239 flathead engine, and it says right here it's the 8RT, which from what I have read is the truck version of the engine. It says Ford right here. It says 443 or 343 right here. 343, which I'm not sure what that is. But these look to be original style heads. I don't know when or if these have been taken off. I suspect they probably have at some point, but I don't think they have been taken off since my father bought this in the 70s. The odometer on this truck shows 89,000 miles. I have no idea if that's accurate or if the odometer is even working, but that's what it shows. So it has at least that much mileage on the truck. I don't even know if this is the original engine to this truck. But what we're going to do is we're going to take these spark plugs out. One thing I also want to do while we're here is I realized I had never checked the oil since we started this. This right here is the oil filter. There's a little canister that slides up and down here. We have not changed this as far as I remember. We have changed the oil, but we did not change the oil filter. We changed the oil probably in the early 90s. So hopefully the only saving grace to the oil not being completely sludged up is that since we changed it, this truck probably has 10 or 20 miles on it. So it had fairly fresh oil when it was parked. But let's see if we can check the oil. The dipstick is down here. See if we have anything on there. That looks kind of yucky. But that oil actually looks fairly clean. It's definitely liquid, but there is some sludgy type stuff on the top of it. So when we get a little bit further, we're gonna have to think about getting that oil out of here, getting some fresh oil in there. But I mean, that still looks pretty liquid and actually doesn't look too dirty, the liquid part that's in there. But there is this little sludge on top of there that hopefully if we do have to change it, we'll just slide right out. But I'm not going to worry about that right now. That'll be a much later on issue. All right, so we're gonna try to get one of these plugs out and see what happens. Okay, we're back. I blew some of the dust off of this engine, and you can actually see it a little bit better now. You can see the 8RT and the 343 Ford. It looks like it says Ford right there, so I guess this is a genuine Ford head. So we're just gonna take the first, wire off here, and we're gonna see if we can get this plug out. This here looks like these have a 13/16 plug in them, which is larger than most plugs are today. So we'll see how hard these are gonna be to get out. It's in there pretty good. I might need a breaker. I do have a breaker bar, so I'll get that. I also want to see what these plugs look like in there. Like I said, they had some fouling up issues prior to it being parked. There we are. Now, once it broke loose, it's actually turning pretty easily. Let's see what this plug looks like. This has been in there the whole time. That is actually clean. That is a clean plug. I believe we put these in right before. We may have even bought new ones and put them in an attempt to get it going, but there is no fouling on that. I'll check the gap, of course, but that looks pretty clean. So I'm gonna get some of that mystery oil and give it a little squirt. All right, so we got that first spark plug out. I got my Marvel mystery oil here. I'm just gonna put a little squirt of it down into the cylinder. Hopefully that will help lubricate it and loosen everything up a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this, maybe I'll put one of the old spark plugs back in, because this one looks really good. I'll just put this one back in. I'm shocked at how good that one looks, but there are spark plugs sitting here in the front, so chances are we replaced these at one point. But I'm gonna go ahead and put this one back in. Make sure it gets threaded in there properly. I think I got it going. Probably won't tighten it too tight because these are going to be coming out again. I know that. Okay. I'm going to put this back on because as of right now I need to do a diagram so I know which wire goes where, because eventually we're going to be replacing these wires, probably the battery cables too, and the coil and probably everything else, but that's going to be long down the road. I'm just going to see what this does for now. So I'm going to move on to the next cylinder. We'll see how this one looks. Get this breaker bar on there. That was easier than the first one. Not quite where I could do it with my hand. That should be good now. See how this one looks. I suspect one of these somewhere is going to be. That one looks pretty good too. A little bit of corrosion on the bottom, but I mean that looks really good. So we're going to do the same thing. Put a little squirt of the mystery oil down here. There's a little bit of gunk left on there. Try my hardest not to get that down in there. Put a little squirt of the mystery oil. We'll put this back in. I don't exactly recall the amount of work we did after this was parked to try to get it back running, but back in the mid to late 90s we had a couple illnesses in the family, and I think this just got pushed to the side, so I don't think we did too much. All right. We're gonna move on and do this to the next 6, and hopefully we won't run into any problems along the way. I think my next step after this, we're gonna let this set for a little while before we try to turn the engine. I don't know how long you're supposed to let it sit, but some people say an hour, some say whatever, but yeah, we'll let this sit for a while, and we will come back and see if that helps the engine turn a little bit. And like I say, I think my next step is to try to start testing some of the wires, see if the wires work, see if we have I mean, we have a circuit because we got the engine turning, the lights are working, everything. So, but I don't know. But for now, I'm gonna go ahead and do this for the next 6 cylinders, and we'll come back. Okay, here I am over on the passenger side. We have the same 8RT marking here, which designates the truck engine. It does have the Ford. This head's a little more corroded than the one on the other side, and also this side's a little more cramped. We got the distributor over here. This has I believe this is the last style distributor that they put on the flatheads. The older ones ran off the front of the crankshaft. This one's at a 90-degree angle, and it comes out here on the side, which they say makes it easier to work on, but it's a little more cramped over here. But this is the 5th spark plug I've taken out, and these still look brand new. So I suspect we probably put brand new spark plugs in an attempt to get this thing going. Although I don't remember, that might have been something my father did. But yeah, we're gonna go down this side. We're gonna do the same thing. Like I say, it's a little more cramped over here, but compared to any modern vehicle you work on, this is a fairly simple, straightforward engine that everything's pretty accessible so far. So I'm gonna keep going, and here's that ignition coil I was talking about. We have this is the 4th ignition coil. at least the 4th ignition coil that's been on this truck since we owned it. And I think we were having problems with these. I think they were overheating for some reason. So that might be something we're going to have to replace in the very near future, as well as all of these. This positive ground actually looks good. The negative battery cable probably going to need to be replaced, although it's a fairly short cable. But I'm going to keep going and see what happens from here. Okay, this is the last one. They have all looked impressive in my mind. There have been some corrosion around the top part, but the actual plug themselves looks pretty good. So I'm putting the last one back in. None of them were too difficult to get out, thank goodness. And we're gonna let this set for a while before we start to turn it. It'll probably be tomorrow. We'll come back and do that. It's starting to get dark out, so
can't find the flashlight.
yeah, I don't know where the flashlight went. But you can, I don't know if you can see down in there. This is the last one. These are incredibly easily accessible compared to any modern vehicle I've worked on. Everything's right here. So we're gonna put this one back in, get it threaded in there. I did go ahead and I did go ahead and tighten them, although I think these are gonna be coming out again. Just in case, I went ahead and tightened them a little bit because they all look so good. I think our electrical problem, the reason we're not getting a spark, lies elsewhere. So I'm gonna get this one tightened up. We're gonna let it set for a while. Let that mystery oil get deep down in there. Hopefully free it up a little bit so it can turn. But I'll get this tightened up and we'll see what happens. Okay, well, we let this sit for a few minutes, and I decided I'm gonna try to spin the engine just to get the oil moving around a little bit in the cylinders. That already sounds a lot better than it did last week. So I think that really helped out a lot. We're gonna let it sit for a little bit. Maybe that mystery oil will penetrate a little bit deeper into the engine. But I'm actually happy with that progress. So, like I say, I think our next step's gonna be making sure the wires work. I did notice at least one of the spark plug wires, when I went through it, was completely off and didn't even seat onto the spark plug. So, we're definitely gonna need new spark plug wires. We're gonna need some other stuff, but tell you the truth, I'm happy with the progress we made today.